Hey, good evening, everybody. Rachel Bogle here at the WMBF First Alert Desk. As always, I do have the Facebook stream up, so if you're joining, feel free to say hi. Just get in the comments there. Also, feel free to ask any questions you may have about any of the stories we're about to go through, because there's quite a lot to get to. So I'm going to go ahead and get right into it, starting with this one. So today, our big story of the day, we're now hearing from the sister of the man who was shot and killed back in 2023 during a suspected road rage incident involving a North Myrtle Beach restaurant owner. So there is a lot to this, but to start today, our Ashley Listrom sat down with Scott Spivey's sister, Jennifer Spivey Foley, and she says she's been fighting for months, trying to get authorities to reopen the investigation into the deadly shooting that claimed her brother's life. So you're taking a look there. The photos on your screen, those are of her brother, who again died in that shooting during what officials were describing as a road rage incident. So to kind of backtrack here, if you are not familiar with this story, but it certainly is one that we have reported on quite a bit, all of this stems from what authorities again are describing as a road rage situation along Camp Swamp Road back in September of 2023, when Weldon Boyd, who owns Buoys on the Boulevard in North Myrtle Beach, allegedly shot and killed Scott Spivey, which he claims was in an act of self-defense. So the state attorney general's office declined to file any criminal charges against Boyd, citing a lack of evidence. But this case was brought back to light more recently following the resignation of now ex-Horry County Deputy Chief Brandon Strickland, who we also learned late last month was under a pending criminal investigation by SLED for alleged misconduct related to the investigation into that deadly shooting. So then take things now to earlier this month. That's when Horry County Councilman Johnny Gardner and Horry County Administrator Barry Spivey sent requests to SLED and to the governor asking authorities to take another look at this case. Even more questions have come to light now when a recent article in the Wall Street Journal included recordings, many of which we actually obtained through Jennifer Foley's attorney here at WMBF News, of phone calls between Boyd and Strickland, who were personal friends. Those calls revealing some of their conversations in the days after that shooting. So you'll be able to hear some of that audio tonight on WMBF News at 11. But now Foley, again Spivey's sister, as well as the Spivey family, are continuing their push, calling for a new investigation. They've also since filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Boyd. Meanwhile, Boyd wrote in a lengthy Facebook post on the Buoys on the Boulevard Facebook page earlier this week, maintaining that shooting was in self-defense, really pushing back and saying he would welcome and cooperate with any further investigation, but also saying he will not be speaking with the media. So again, there is a lot to this. There has been a lot of coverage, and this is something that, again, this happened back in fall of 2023. So you can catch up on all of our previous reporting over on WMBFnews.com. But again, there's a lot going on with this, and I certainly do not think this will be the last time we are talking about and reporting on this case. So make sure you stick with us for any new developments here with this one. Speaking of another case that we've been following for you for quite a long time, we're talking over a decade with this one, and now we are getting just a new element here in the Brittany Drexel saga. So the mother of Brittany Drexel is now asking a court to satisfy a judgment against her daughter's killer by seizing his property. So according to court documents filed last Thursday, Don Conley accuses Raymond Moody of failing to pay any of the $700 million that a jury awarded to her back in February following a civil trial. So she's now asking the court to pay it out through Moody's personal property in Georgetown County. Basically, she's saying he has not paid a dime. She doesn't think he's going to pay anything, and really her best bet to get anything paid out in this judgment is for them basically to seize this property and hand it over to her. Conway originally sued Moody for intentional infliction of emotional distress. This comes after a judge sentenced him to life in prison back in 2022 after he confessed to kidnapping, raping, and killing 17-year-old Drexel while she was vacationing in Myrtle Beach back in 2009. If you are not familiar, this is one of the biggest, what was once missing person cases here in the Grand Strand. It made national news back in 2009, and then it wasn't until more recently that Raymond Moody came forward, confessed, and then told authorities where her remains were located, and we could see justice now being delivered in the Drexel case. But again, more and more chapters kind of unfolding here when it comes to some of the civil cases and filings. So with this most recent filing, though, a judge has not made a decision. We'll update you when they do. In the meantime, though, if you want to read up on this lawsuit in its entirety right now, you can find it on this story over on WMBFnews.com. All right, here, this next story, also another one we've been following for you for quite a while now. So this is when we actually gave you this update yesterday. That's when we learned a federal judge had sentenced a Marion man, Jeremy Smith, to life in prison for killing a New Mexico State police officer. But that was really the second half of what authorities describe as really just a cross-state crime spree that spanned over 1,500 miles and actually started here in South Carolina, where he also faces charges. So Jeremy Smith's charges connected to the murder of Florence County paramedic Phoenicia Machado IV. He's also facing charges for stealing her car that he then used to get across the country. Those charges are now being reviewed. Florence County Solicitor Ed Clement says he really doesn't want to risk any hiccup that could reverse Smith's fate, because it can get very tricky in the legal world, of course, with this sentencing, this life sentence. There is no parole in the federal system, so he will spend the rest of his life in prison on that federal sentencing. But really, what the solicitor is saying is he doesn't want to jeopardize that, or open up any kind of possible loopholes for something to happen. So he doesn't want to risk any hiccups that could reverse his fate, essentially. So Clemens and the rest of his office, they're really, really kind of taking their time with this to decide if they are going to prosecute Ford's murder and the other charges that he is facing here in South Carolina. But they say it will be a few more months until they make a decision. So we will let you know when that happens and what happens there. But again, he has already been sentenced to life in prison out in New Mexico. So we'll just see if we could see any kind of repercussions here when it comes to the charges back on our side of the country. All right, so I'm going to pop myself back up here for a moment, and thank you, Janet, for chiming in on the comments and saying hello. Always like to see you join. All right, so I will be showing you, of course, it's not an update without at least one mugshot. So, of course, I have one for you here. So a third suspect who was wanted in connection to an armed robbery in Murrells Inlet is now in custody. So the Georgetown County Sheriff's Office says police in Horry County, along with U.S. Marshals, arrested this man who you're looking at here. This is Tamarius Holmes. That happened earlier today. He's facing a number of charges, including armed robbery and first-degree burglary and possession of a weapon during a violent crime. And that is all connected to an incident where you can see this group here. All of these suspects were captured on surveillance camera shortly after that alleged robbery. That is on a gas station's surveillance camera. So that is just, they sent out kind of a big bolo for be on the lookout for that vehicle. And now they have all of these three suspects in custody. So Holmes, along with Brody Seward and Jamarian Long, who were previously arrested, are accused of breaking into a home on April 13th along Sunnyside Avenue. Documents claim two of those suspects held the victims at gunpoint while a third person searched their pockets. Then the trio reportedly got away with money, cell phones, and a safe containing nearly $3,000. Again, all of those suspects who were wanted in this case have now been arrested. All right. Let's go ahead and lighten things up. We've had a whole lot of heavy stories to get to, so these last couple here will be quite a bit lighter, to say the least. Starting with this one, you cannot look at this without feeling extremely happy. So check this out. Next month, the Grand Strand will be hosting the world's largest rubber ducky. She's known as Mama Duck, and you'll be able to see her at Burroughs and Chapin Pavilion Park in Myrtle Beach, May 8th through the 11th. So clearly, she's attention-getting, but her larger-than-life appearance is actually part of a much bigger purpose, because the duck is an ambassador for water safety awareness. So she is making this appearance as part of an awareness campaign for the YMCA of Coastal Carolina's Splash Safe Challenge and for National Water Safety Month next month. So you can learn more about that Splash Safe Challenge and find all the info about when you can come and see Mama Duck right here in the Grand Strand over on our website. All right, keeping things kind of in that lighter spirit here, talking baseball, talking about the future of our local minor league team here. So the Myrtle Beach Pelicans are one step closer now to renewing their lease here in the Grand Strand. So both Horry County and Myrtle Beach City Councils passed a first of two votes today on plans to work out a new lease agreement with the Myrtle Beach Pelicans. Despite no votes from two members, Myrtle Beach City Council passed the first reading on that lease agreement between Myrtle Beach, Horry County, and the team. But they did make some changes. Instead of 20 years, they upped that lease term to 30 years, also upping the cost for the last 10 years of that lease. Our Julia Richardson's actually going to join us in studio tonight at 11 to break down what that lease looks like, kind of breaking it down. How much is it going to cost from this year to this year, so on and so forth. So remember, though, with all of that said, today's votes were really just a first step, and negotiations are still happening. An agreement still has to go through 2 more votes on the county level and 1 more vote on the city level before things can be made official. So there still is a lot to follow before we get too excited about that potential long-term future with the Pelicans here in Myrtle Beach. And of course, we will let you know what happens. So let's go ahead and talk about that forecast next. So finally, we're going to see some much needed rain. So we're going to start seeing some showers moving in tomorrow. The latest data suggesting scattered showers and storms will develop early to mid-afternoon for your Wednesday. No severe storms really expected, but just know you could see some locally heavy downpours and lightning in some spots. And again, we certainly need it. We do have that burn ban in place in unincorporated areas of Horry County. We've just been so dry right now and just dealing with those drought conditions. So we desperately need this rain. We actually need much more than we're likely even going to see. But also with that, despite some of those showers moving in, temperatures will be staying warm. We're talking highs in the upper 70s to low 80s. So just make sure you're grabbing that umbrella as you are heading out and about. All right, let's talk about what is coming up tonight at 11. If you missed it earlier, our National Investigative Team is looking at a case that will soon go before the U.S. Supreme Court after an FBI raid in Georgia targeted the wrong house, and agents ended up busting into an unsuspected family's home. So we're going to have a closer look at their case and other instances of similar wrongful raids across the country. Also, our Tegan Brown will join us with all of your baseball scores, talking CCU, Clemson, USC, and all your other sports updates and sports news of the day. Again, all that is coming up tonight at 11, so hopefully you're able to stay up just about 45 minutes or so longer so you can tune in with us for WMBF News at 11. But for now, that'll do it for this update from the WMBF First Alert Desk. Have a good rest of your